Hey y'all, it's Kinsey here. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my March reading wrap up. I read 14 books this month, which is so good for me because last month I think I read 9 books. So I read 5 more books this month than I did last month. So let's just get into it. So the first book that I read, I actually finished on like March 1st because I started at the end of February. This was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This book was pretty good. I think I rated it a 4-star, but everyone claims that this is so good and this is their favorite Taylor Jenkins Reid book. I thought it was really good, but I honestly didn't see what all the hype was about. I was kind of disappointed by this book, to be honest. It's still really, really good. 4 stars. I'd recommend reading it, but nothing groundbreaking about this book, really. This book is about Evelyn Hugo. She's like an actress. It's based, I think, back in like the 60s, 1950s, around that time. And she goes through 7 husbands, as you can see, and there is a writer named Monique who does a interview on her, and she gets to talk about the 7 husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which is a crazy thing because Evelyn will not talk to anybody about her past life, and she picks Monique because of something that I cannot tell you because it will spoil the book. But yeah, there's kind of a plot twist, but I don't know if you'd call it a plot twist, but yeah. It's pretty good. 4 out of 5 stars. If you think you would like this type of book, then go read it. I read It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. This book was so hyped up on TikTok, and I love Colleen Hoover. Any book that I've read by her is 5 stars, including this. This is 5 stars. This book is about Lily and Ryle. I'm also gonna say it's a little bit about Atlas. I love Atlas, but Ryle, he's a neurosurgeon. He's very stubborn. Lily owns a flower shop, and they both live in Boston, and they obviously get together. It's kind of about I don't think I want to tell you because that might actually spoil the book, so just go read it. This book is really, really good, but you might want to check trigger warnings for this book because it definitely has some topics in it that some people might not be able to read, but it is very good. It didn't make me cry like a bunch of people, but it is very heartwarming at the end, and she is coming out with a book called It Starts With Us, which is like, I think it's obviously the second book, but I think it's supposed to be like a prequel to this one, something along those lines. But this book was definitely really, really good. Not my favorite Colleen Hoover book, but still recommend reading it. Hookline Sinker by Tessa Bailey. This is the second book to It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. This is about Hannah and Fox. Hannah is Piper's sister from It Happened One Summer, and Fox is Brendan's best friend from It Happened One Summer. And this is definitely friends to lovers, forced proximity, kind of forbidden because Brendan doesn't want Fox to be with Hannah, basically. But definitely very, very good. 5 out of 5 stars again. I think I like this book actually better than I liked It Happened One Summer because Hannah, I just love her personality. She's so funny. And yeah, she actually is in town for work because she works with like a movie production company, I think, and she suggests going to the town that Fox lives in for a movie to film. So they go there, and then she has to live with Fox while they're filming the movie because Piper and Brendan's apartment is full, or their house is full because Brendan's parents are actually in town staying with them, so forced proximity because she has to live with Fox. And yeah, I'm guessing you can guess what comes next. They get together. But yeah, 5 out of 5 stars, so good. The next book I read is probably one of my favorite books of the month. That is The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. This is the first book in the Dreamland Billionaires series, and I was so shocked by this book. Oh my gosh, this book is so good. This is about Rowan and Zara, and Rowan is one of the Kane brothers, and there's Rowan, Declan, and Callahan, but they call him Cal. And their grandpa dies, and he owns Dreamland, which is like an amusement park, kind of like Disney, but it's Dreamland. And whenever their grandpa dies, he leaves them all with like a task to do to get their share of the theme park, basically. And Rowan's task is to come up with a plan to basically make the park better, and he has to get a vote from already chosen voters, and if they accept his plan, he gets his part of Dreamland, basically. And Zara, her family has worked at Dreamland for like years and years, and she basically has grown up at Dreamland, and she gets to work as I think it's like a creative person. She like draws and like comes up with new roller coasters and stuff, something like that. And so it's like workplace romance, and he's kind of grumpy. I would say it's kind of like Grumpy Sunshine. But yeah, this was really good. 5 out of 5. Again, Rowan. I love Zara. She's so funny. But Zara actually gets drunk and submits a drunk proposal about criticizing a Dreamland's ride, and like basically just says it's horrible, kind of. And she should have been fired, but actually instead she gets like promoted to that creative job, as I was talking about. And yeah, so that's basically what this book is about. It's about them having to work together. So good. And right after that, I read Terms and Conditions, which is the second book in the Dreamland Billionaire series. This is about Declan and Iris. Declan, like I said, is Rowan's brother. And I forgot to mention, Rowan is the youngest. Declan is the oldest, and Callahan is the middle, I believe. I'm pretty sure. But Declan, his task, I think, is to get married and have a kid before he can become the CEO. That's what he is going to do. He's going to become the CEO of Dreamland, but he has to get married and have a kid before he can. And Iris has been Declan's assistant for years. So she's been trying to find Declan a wife for a very long time. But Declan is this grumpy man who treats everyone like crap and basically doesn't like anybody. And the only person he can semi-tolerate is Iris. And she basically decides that she's going to marry him so that he can get the CEO position. And so she marries him. So it's a marriage of convenience and workplace romance because she's his assistant. And finally he starts to like open up, and they actually start to fall in love. And yeah, this book is really good because he's definitely grumpy. She's definitely sunshine. I think I like this one actually better than I like The Fine Print. Honestly, I don't know. They're both like 5 out of 5 stars. Both so good. Definitely read them. I cannot wait for the third book to come out. I think it comes out maybe sometime this year. I know she's writing it right now. I follow her on Instagram and I see she's like posting stuff about it. And I'm so excited. It's about Cal and Alana. And I think it's like a second chance romance. I'm so excited for that one. I can't wait for it to come out. Yes, definitely recommend reading the Dreamland Billionaire series. Go read it. After I read that, I felt like I needed a break from romance for a little bit just because. And I decided to pick up A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This is about Pip, and she is doing a project, her senior project, about Andy Bell, who was murdered by her boyfriend, or supposedly that's what supposedly happened. Her boyfriend's name was Sal Singh. He supposedly murdered her and then he killed himself. That's what the town thinks. That's what everyone says happened. But Pip decides she's going to investigate the case further because she doesn't believe that Sal did it. So that's basically everything this book is about. That's all I'm going to tell you about this because I don't want to go any farther into this book and ruin anything about this mystery. So this book, I think I gave it 5 stars also because it was a very good mystery, and I honestly was very shocked about what happened. That's all I'm gonna say. I forgot to mention a book because I don't have it with me. I knew this was gonna happen, but the second book I read this month is called Amy, Chelsea, Stacey, D. It's like a mystery, kidnapping, mystery, murder, that type of book. My friend actually has it and she wanted me to read it, so I borrowed it from her, but obviously I gave it back, so I don't have it. But if I can like insert a picture here, I'll try. I might not be able to, but and Amy and Dee get kidnapped by a guy named Kyle, and he basically obviously kidnaps them, takes them up to a cabin, and keeps them there for a very, very, very long time. He changes their name to Chelsea and Stacey, which are the names of dolls, and he basically treats them like dolls. He has this obsession with dolls, like Barbie dolls, basically, and he has like Barbie dolls, and he treats the Barbie dolls like humans, real people. And finally, Amy, or Chelsea, escapes and gets back home, and she's trying to like relearn how to live her life as a normal person, and like she kind of has like Stockholm syndrome where she like wants to go back, and like it's a whole thing. It's very sad, but also kind of, I don't know. The book was so good but kind of confusing at first until you realize like what's happening, and then like it keeps like kind of like flashing forward and backwards between like what happened then and then like her living her life at home now, trying to figure out like how to get back into society basically. But yeah, 4 out of 5 stars, pretty good. I definitely recommend reading it if you like that type of book. You've Reached Sam by Dustin Tao, I think that's how you say it. I think this is a YA contemporary romance, I'm pretty sure. This book is about Julie and Sam, and they meet and they get together, but then Sam actually dies in a car accident, and Julie obviously is very sad. I think they've been together for like 3 years or so. They've been together for a while. I don't know how long it was, but Julie is very upset, obviously, so she has been calling Sam's phone just to hear his voicemail, to hear his voice. And one day he actually picks up the phone. Yes, he's dead, but he picks up the phone. And she can't believe it that she's actually talking to him. But he says that they have a limited amount of time to talk. But after that, they talk every day for a long time so that they can get their actual final goodbye. And it was honestly so sad but so heartwarming because it was such a good book. If you like contemporary romance that you might cry in, You've Reached Sam, go read it. This next book I didn't really get. What I mean is, when I read it, I was kind of on the fence about it because I was kind of confused by the writing. until I watched the show, and then it made me want to read the book again. And that is Normal People by Sally Rooney. And everyone likes this book, and I gave it 3 stars, but I think I'm going to bump it up to like 3.75, 3.5, something around there. The way that Sally Rooney writes kind of confused me because she doesn't write dialogue with quotations, she just writes it. Like, no quotation marks or anything, so sometimes I got confused if I was reading like dialogue or just like narration. But like, and then other stuff, like she would skip from like 6 weeks later, and then like the next chapter would be like 3 months later or 2 months later, and I just felt like it was skipping a lot between each chapter. So I was kind of like, meh, it's okay, but like, I don't know what all the hype was about. So then it was kind of throwing me off about the actual story of the book. But then I watched the show, because there's a show on Hulu about it. And then I was like, okay, wow, the show is so good, I need to go read the book again. So maybe one day I'll read the book again and I'll like it way better, which I probably will. But anyway, let me tell you what the book's about now that I have watched the show. So it's about Connell and Marianne, and they basically grew up in the same town in Ireland, go to the same school, and basically they're friends outside of school, and they're basically in a relationship outside of school, but then when they're in school, Connell doesn't want to talk to Marianne at all, doesn't want to even like look at her because no one likes her, and because she's kind of like weird, I guess you can say. She's kind of like an outcast. So he basically doesn't talk to her because he's popular. None of his friends like her, and he doesn't want to seem like he likes her because he doesn't want his friends to not like him, basically. But then after high school, they end up going to the same college. And in college, they basically get in a relationship again, but then it's like on and off between different partners they have, and like, they're confused. They never want to call each other boyfriend and girlfriend, and it's a thing. It's like mutual. On the back it says, Normal People is the story of mutual fascination, friendship, and love. That is the perfect description of this book, really, because they never say they're in a relationship, but they both equally want to be. They both equally love each other and want to be with each other, but neither of them want to say that they want to be with the other one. And this book was just, the writing style threw me off, but I'll have to go back and reread it again because I loved the show. But yeah, if you don't mind being a little confused at first at the reading, I think you should try out this book. You might really like it. After I read Normal People, I needed a little bit of a brain break because my brain was a little struggling to comprehend that book. So I decided to pick up If the Shoe Fits by Julie Murphy. This is basically a Cinderella retelling, kind of. It's about Cindy, who loves shoes. She is a plus-size woman, basically, and she meets this guy on the plane on the way home, and she basically calls him Prince Charming because she doesn't get his name at the beginning, and she says he's super nice and very handsome like Prince Charming would be, but then she actually figures out his name is Henry. And then her dad, she's very close with her dad, but then he dies, so she has to go live with her stepmom, and her stepmom has 2 daughters, which are Drew and Anna, and they are actually really close with her. And then there's triplets, which are very young, so that she's like, she takes care of them basically. But then Erica, which is her stepmom, is like a TV show producer for Before Midnight, which is like a kind of like The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, basically. And they actually want Anna and Drew, which is her sisters, to be on the show. And they actually asked Cindy to be on the show because they think it would be good representation because she's a plus girl. And when Cindy gets there, guess who's the male bachelor on the show? Henry. So I guess you can guess what happens. Henry and her have a good connection from the plane and everything, but Henry actually wasn't going to pick Cindy because the people of the show didn't want them to. So yeah, I'm not going to tell you what happens at the end because the end is actually pretty good and I don't want to spoil the end for you, but this book was actually way better than I thought it was going to be. I didn't know how I'd like it because when I first bought it, I didn't think about it being a Cinderella retelling. I just bought it because I think someone said it was good, and there's a Colleen Hoover review on the back and I trust her with my life. So I bought it and I was like, oh, it's probably going to be good. It was good. I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. So if you just want something a little lighthearted, definitely recommend getting this one. Decided to go for another thriller. I read There's Someone Inside Your House by Stephanie Perkins, and I was very disappointed. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. This book I thought was going to be super scary. I was very disappointed, let me tell you. I'm going to keep saying that because this book was basically a romance with a little bit of killing. I expected this to be like mostly thriller with a little bit of romance thrown in because most books are going to have like a little bit of romance probably. I'm going to read you the back and you'll see what I mean. It's been almost a year since Makani Young came to live with her grandmother, and she's still adjusting to her new life in rural Nebraska. Then, one by one, the students of her high school begin to die in a series of gruesome murders, each with increasing and grotesque flair. As the body count rises and the terror grows closer, will Makani survive the killer's twisted plan? So I read that, and I was like, this is going to be so good about a serial killer who kills people. It was mostly about, like, Ollie and Makani's love life with, like, 1 chapter of someone getting killed and then, like, 3 chapters of their love life and then, like, 1 chapter with 2 pages of someone getting killed. I was just very disappointed because you knew right away when the person was going to die. And because, like, first, let's say, like, each chapter starts with, like, 1 chapter is about, like, Makani and Ollie. And then, like, if another chapter starts with someone else's name, you automatically know that they're going to be the ones to die. And I do not like that. I like to be surprised. If I'm reading a murder book, I want to be surprised with who's going to die. And I want to be surprised how they're going to die and, like, what's going to happen. I don't want to, like, automatically know what's going to happen in the book. And I don't know. I just was very disappointed. I just thought by the title and everything that this was going to be way better than it was. I mean, this would be a good beginner book for someone that's trying to get into, like, thrillers, I guess. Some of the, like, descriptions are kind of gruesome. They talk about, like, the bodies, but even then it's not really that bad. So 3 out of 5 stars. It's okay. Last 3 books are actually Colleen Hoover books because they're the last 3 in the Hopeless series. First one is Finding Cinderella. This is technically the last book in the Hopeless series. This is about Six, which is Sky's best friend in Hopeless. I don't think I'm going to tell you much about this because this book is so short. It's only a novella, so it only has, like, how many pages? This only has 130 pages, so it's very short. And if I say anything about this book, I'll probably ruin it. So I'm just going to say it's about Six, her romance. So after Finding Cinderella, you read All Your Perfects. This one is definitely like a spin-off of the Hopeless series. Like, you can read this as a standalone if you want, but I would recommend reading it after the Hopeless series, just because, like, this book has a second book to it, which would definitely tie everything together if you read the Hopeless series. Like, you can read this all by itself. You don't even have to read the second book, but you definitely should, because if you read all of them, your heart will be so much fuller. But this book is about Quinn and Graham, and this book I think is my favorite book that I have ever read, ever, right now. It's so good. It's definitely my favorite Colleen Hoover book, and I think it's my favorite book of all time at the moment. This book had me crying, smiling, all within like a minute, all within the same book. Like, one chapter, I'd be crying. The next chapter, I'd be smiling. It's just crazy. But this book is about, like I said, Quinn and Graham. It has chapters with then and chapters with now. So it's basically like they're already married, which is the now chapters. They've been married for, I think it's like 7 years, but their marriage is crumbling and they are on the brink of divorce. And then the then chapters are about when they first meet and they're falling in love, and those chapters I love. And the now chapters, whenever they're on the brink of divorce, Quinn is struggling with infertility, and she can't get pregnant, and it's making her depressed and not want to basically do anything with Graham. She doesn't even want to like be with him anymore, because like a hug from him just makes her sad, because she knows she can't fulfill him being a father. It just makes her sad and everything, and yeah. But this book is so good. Like, in the now chapters, I'd be bawling, because like it's so sad how they depict infertility and her emotions, and then it goes from being super sad in the now chapters to flipping to the then chapters, and it's like so happy because they're getting together and they're in the bliss of new romance, and then it's like I'm crying, and it's like, oh, it's so happy, and then like the next chapter I'm like crying again. This book had me feeling so many emotions, and it was just so good. I'd recommend reading this book. Just go read this book. 500 stars out of 5. So good, so good. Read it. So at the end of All Your Perfects, unfortunately something happens, and Quinn is not able to have kids at all anymore, for sure. But in Finding Perfect, which is the last book that I read this month and the last book in the Hopeless series, basically ties everything all together. They're finally blessed with a baby. And I know that's kind of a spoiler, but it's okay. Because something happens, and this book is just the final thing that will basically put your shattered heart back together. And this book is a novella, so it's very, very short. I think it only has like 120 pages or so. Yeah, 122 pages. So very, very short. I read this in like an hour, I think, maybe 2 at the most. But yeah, so good. 5 out of 5 stars again. Just please go read the entire Hopeless series because it's so good. Yeah, just go read it. Alright guys, well that's every book that I read in the month of March. I had a very good reading month. There was only a couple books that I wasn't the hugest fan of, but besides that, I think I read some really good books this month, and I'm so happy that I did, and I can't wait to read next month. I'm so excited to read more and more books. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Comment down below what books you guys read, because I'm really interested to know. I need to add more books to my TBR. But yeah, let me know if you guys have read any of these books and how you thought about them. Yeah, I love you guys so much, and please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!